Tar Heel Teachers presents a conversation with Dr. Tempest Leake, author of What Is Not Understood Needs to Be Said, exploring the complexities of Black girls. I'm Marlow, Artis. Joining us for this special conversation are educators from across the state of North Carolina who are joining us as special guest co-hosts. At this time, we'll start our first introduction.
Hi, I'm Lisa Barrett Anthony, and I've been in education for 23 and a half years. I just recently retired in January, and I've known Miss Leake, Dr. Leake, for a few years. We worked together at East Union Middle School.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vadia Smith. I am a security associate at Forest Hills High School, which is in Union County. I've been employed with Union County Public Schools for a little over 10 years now, and I am glad to be here. Thank you, Ms. Leaks, for the invite.
Hello, my name is Dr. Chaundra Snuggs. I am a career and technical education teacher. I've been teaching for 14 years, and I teach in Stanley County Schools, and I work at Albemarle High School.
Hi, good evening. My name is Robyn Stone. I'm currently a media specialist at McDeeds Creek Elementary School with Moore County Schools. This is my 34th year in education, and I've known Dr. Leake as a wonderful educator to my own child many years ago, inspired her to become a science teacher. And we worked together at West Montgomery High School in Montgomery County. And I'm very glad to be here.
Wonderful. That is fantastic. And we're really happy to have each of you part of this conversation, this special conversation. In her book, What Is Not Understood Needs to Be Said, exploring the complexities of Black girls, Dr. Tempest Leake displays the journey of Black girlhood through her own professional and personal experiences and those of her counterparts. She identifies the complexities of Black girls that relates to their hair, their relationships with their parents, relationships with peers, and how they navigate systems that should be in place to nurture and educate them. Dr. Leake, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much for the invite, Dr. Artis.
We're really excited to have you on the show and really talk about this really important topic. Dr. Leake, can you first start by just telling us what prompted you to write this book?
Other than my own personal experience and kind of how I've evolved in my journey and, being able to navigate different spaces where sometimes, I am the minority being the only female and a lot of times being the only Black person in the room. During COVID, it really displayed the disparities that were occurring, and it kind of, unveiled a lot of things that were happening. And I was noticing a lot of deficits when it came to our Black girls. And it was just something that struck me because there's not a lot of resources, there's not a lot of literature, there's not a lot of initiatives out there that are geared specifically towards Black females. So that was really what prompted, because there needs to be more conversation around it.
There certainly needs to be conversation. You gave us a lot to talk about in the book. I really appreciated how vulnerable you were in terms of sharing your own personal experiences and being able to serve as that role model for the students that you work with, but also other Black girls and Black women. Talk about that vulnerability and how it was for you just to be able to kind of dive into your own personal experiences.
I think that part is what makes the book so relatable and allows the reader to be able to understand. People know me as being, oh, she's smart and oh, she's educated, but they don't know what we go through. And a lot of times, people say, you don't look like what you've been through. And no, I do not, but I've been through a lot. And it's been, since I first entered a school building, there have been instances where I have felt small and insignificant, and I've been bullied and I've been called names. And it takes a lot to overcome that. And if you do not have a strong system around you, stuff like that can destroy you at an early age and affect your self-esteem. So it was very, very intricate to really dive into each of the situations and display my own vulnerability so that people can see that, yes, you can overcome these, but that doesn't mean that all these things do not exist and happen in all these different spaces.
Absolutely. And you really were just on display and been able to share your story as you also shared other stories as well. What questions do we have for Dr. Leake?
Well, I'll go first. I was just curious. Did you realize that your book would affect not only the Black girls, but Black women as well? I know that earlier today, as a matter of fact, it hadn't been that long ago, I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone, and I was actually very, very uneasy about my hair for today. And I was like worried about my hair. And I was just like, no, my hair is beautiful. So so I was actually having some, some of the things that were said in your book, they're affecting me as well. So did you have any idea that it would be a book not just for Black girls, but women as well?
I was really hoping so because I'm, in my late 30s now, and a lot of these things still affect me because of the things that are out there, the social media, the things that you see on TV, the things that you see in your workspace, all the things we've had to deal with as far as, different dress codes that also police your hair and how you can wear your hair and what color your hair should be and all this stuff. So it affects your day to day. I mean, it took me a minute to figure out what I was going to do this evening myself, because it's just when you're put on display and you always feel as though you have to put on this facade so that you are approved by the masses and not really necessarily how you feel about yourself. So I've had some instances where I've been with book clubs and I've heard other Black women say, I never had issues with my hair, but I didn't realize, that my peers worried so much about their hair. So it talks, it brings light not just to those that are not African American, but amongst the African American females as well, and others.
I I just have a comment, but it leads into a question. I think it's so important and for anyone reading books, and especially children, to see people like themselves written about. And I and I find that I am worrying about the elementary level Black females in my school. There aren't many at all. Um, and I've tried to think about how what can I do for them? What can, not only are most of them are new because of redistricting, they might not know each other. They don't have a lot of their same peers. And so I've tried to introduce them to literature written for and about and by Black authors. And I hope that it has helped, even just from the viewpoint of establishing a positive relationship with these students. Jacqueline Woodson is one of my favorite authors, and we do an author study of her every year. I would do it because I just think so many kids can relate to her writings. But I am interested in finding out what you think we can do at the elementary levels. I know the things you've done at the high school levels and middle school levels have been so effective, and I'm interested in what I can do to help all my girls at the elementary level. So.
I would say, I mean, you're on the right track because you're introducing them to things where they can see themselves and where they can aspire to be something that they may not have aspired to be if they had not been introduced to those types of literature that you're sharing. But continue to recognize them, to see them, to acknowledge them, give them praise, and check in on them, like stop by the classroom. It makes them feel special. It makes them feel acknowledged, especially when you're in a room where most of the people don't look like you. It's hard. It's easy to kind of fade into the background so that you don't draw attention to yourselves. And then all of this does start at a very young age. I mean, I was exposed to a lot in elementary school, and you don't want that to divide to start. That self-esteem building begins there, because if not, I talk about in the book how they start to fall out of love with education as they progress. So it's very important, because I did not have a Black teacher until I got to high school. All of my educators and from K through 8 were white. I mean, unless it was like a TA or something like that. I did not have a lot of African American teachers. So you don't have to be a Black teacher to make a difference in a Black girl's life. And that's the point that I'm really trying to make, is that it's going to take all of us.
Exactly. I agree. And it bothers me that, we have one female Black lady on our faculty, and I worry about, as educators, we worry about all our kids, and especially after reading your book and thinking back on the things that I've seen you do, I've really made it a point to be more aware of what I can do for them. But thank you.
So I wanted to ask Dr. Leake, I remember when you finished the book and you were saying how, when you're writing, in the process of writing, you didn't really tell anybody. You kind of kept it to yourself and only told a few people. So during that time in your process of writing, can you just kind of highlight like the fears that you had and uncertainties that you had during the process of writing? Now that everything's out, you published a book, you've done, several events surrounding your book. How do you feel now about, when you were uncertain at first versus where you are in the process now with your book and how you've been sharing your information and enlightening others?
To be perfectly honest, I'm still very uncertain. I am still out here trying to get the book in as many hands as possible. I'm still very insecure about, you know, is it making a effect on anybody? Is anyone taking anything from it? And I hear a lot of things, from my inner circle, but it takes, hearing it from others outside of that circle to kind of build your confidence, because there are a whole lot of other things that I want to write. But I'm trying to do my best to kind of push this as much as possible, because this is very important to me. And I know that can make some uncomfortable. And I've actually had people, send messages that it was like the book, that hadn't read the book, obviously, that the book was racist and, it's just another way to try to divide us. And all of those things, can be detrimental when you're trying to push something that is going to make a difference. So I do still have insecurity surrounding it, but every time I have a conversation about it, I feel more and more secure in the reasons why I wrote the book.
That's great. And I'm actually glad that you wrote it because, being from the area that we're from, where it's not the Black population and the percentage is low. And it's very important now that a lot of the young ladies in the area that we do live see and have a local role model. Um, Especially now with a lot of negativity that's surrounding the school system. So I definitely applaud you for stepping out of your comfort zone and embracing what you feel was an important cause to you, because this is also going to be inspiring to other young ladies as well as myself. Um, Definitely. So I encourage you to keep going.
Thank you.
Yeah, I too encourage you, Dr. Leeds, to keep going, because I think one of my favorite chapters in the book is I can't go to school with my hair like this. And probably that is the cosmetologist that's inside of me too, because I've been doing hair for 22 years. And so I've seen it all, like from the Jerry curl stage to the buns, to the finger waves, the deep ocean waves, to the relaxers, to I want my hair, the extensions, to my behind, the braids, the everything. So I like that because it kind of stood out from, and it took me back to childhood. I remember when I went to elementary school, and it was picture day, and my mom my mom was like a little local hairdresser, right, with no license, but she did everybody's hair. And so she it was picture day, and it was time for me to go to school. And I remember she pulled my hair in a ponytail, and I wanted a bang, and she gave me a bang, but y'all, my bang was like right here. like, wait. And I'm like, wow, I cannot go to school with my hair like this. So whenever I seen that, it kind of took me back to that time, but it also took me back to remembering a client that I had. And that client was a extension wearer. She wore a lot of extensions. And so I'm not that stylist that do extensions. So we were trying to get her hair back to a healthy state. And so we agreed that we were going to cut the extensions, meaning not wear them for a while. So whenever I done her hair, and it was complete, it was very pretty. But when I turned it to the mirror, she was like, "Can you add me some pieces?" Right. And so when she asked me to add her some pieces, I was like, no, because this is what we agreed that this is the direction that we want to go in to get your hair back in a healthy state. But there was a part in your book that really stuck out to me, and I jotted it down. It says one of the biggest points or the biggest keys that it mentioned in the book. It said the key ingredient to young Black female success is building self-esteem and eliminating insecurities. And for that, it took me back to that young lady who was so insecure and her self-esteem was so low that she couldn't grab enough within herself to be beautiful with what she had. And I think that is a real major point that I see on the high school level with a lot of young ladies. So I find that I myself and a lot of people that's on the panel, we do a lot of building these young ladies up every day, encouraging them, building them up, only for them to go back into a home that sometimes tear it all back down. And then they come back the next day and we start at pouring the concrete to build a brick, to build it back up. And then they get it torn back down each day. So what are your thoughts, Dr. Leake, on how we can, or in the panel, on how we can not get to relay the foundation and we're starting to build the bricks, but what can we do for some of the girls that, so the bricks aren't torn completely down, if that makes sense?
Dr. Leake is frozen.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and respond then. For me, like this semester, because from my school, some of the girls was getting into fights early in the year, and I'm like, oh my, if they keep this up, they're gonna mess themselves up before they even have a chance to really fulfill their high school career. And it was freshman girls, so I was like, I have to figure out something to get some of these girls on the right track. So I put it out there to start a girls empowerment group during school, but I was like, I already have a million and one things going on. So how am I supposed to do this on top of what I already have going on? So one, I learned to do it in manageable chunks. So I was like, I'll just limit it to a few girls. My limit was 12. I did not initially have 12 to start in my program, but I also had to learn just to work with what you have. And so I take those few girls. We meet every other Friday before school because there's not a allotted time for like clubs. So we meet right before school. And the first topic that we talked about was self worth and character. And I was explaining to them, a lot of times just about taking pride in themselves. A lot of times we do things to look good on the outside, just like a client wanted the extensions. That takes time. And when we invest in our outside, our outward appearance, we need to do the same thing with our inward man, making sure that our inside look just as good as our outside. And then one thing that I also explain to them, a lot of times we say, I'm going to do what makes me happy. And I'll tell people that, do what make you happy. But sometimes what makes us happy is something that's going to be temporary happiness. It's going to make us happy in that moment. But I try to encourage them to do something that's going to make you happy today, but you can also be happy about it next week, the month after that, and even the next year, because we do things of temporary happiness. So for me, I just try to work with a few that I have, in hopes that what I'm rubbing off on them will start to rub off on their friends, and they'll tell people about it, and just kind of help encourage other girls. Because I think, we want to save the world, We want to save all our girls, but there's some going to be some we'll reach and some we won't. But the ones that we can, we just gotta do the best with them what we have, and just take encouragement and pride in those small steps, those small victories, embrace them, and just hope that they're holding on to the knowledge that we give to them.
Yeah, and Dr. Leake does an excellent job with the young girls. I know that every school that she's attended, that she's been at, whether it's been a teacher, administrator, she always forms teams. And I know she does step club, and during our Black History program, she has lots of girls doing praise dancing and all kinds of things to uplift them. So I was wanting to know, I know I was wanting to ask her, is she leaving as she leaves the schools? Like she was in Albemarle at one point, I think, and then at East Union. But as she leaves the schools, is she leaving somebody else in charge to do what she has done? Because she did a lot of work even at East Union Middle School this year. She was getting hair products and things that she was collecting things that she thought that Black girls needed that they may not have had at home, and had like a goodie bag with African American hair products. And so I'm just curious as to what I can do, and what maybe like if there's somebody that can take over at the school to make sure that this is an ongoing event that happens, that continues.
That was one of my favorite parts in the book when she mentioned about that, just being so intentional. We have these first aid kits, and what other kind of kits can we have to make sure that Black girls feel seen. I thought that was spot on. I love that part. So, Dr.
Mhm.
Leake, Miss Anthony was asking, as you have transitioned from different schools and you've done all this work and really been able to support the girls, have there been people that have been left behind at the school, that have been able to continue the work that you were able to pass the baton to, so that they can continue the work that you're doing to make such a difference in the lives of the girls?
In some cases, yes. But I know over time, those those individuals eventually move on too. So it's like a constant cycle of trying to make sure that there is someone in that building that can, carry that torch for those young ladies. And for some of them, I do go back and I reach out to certain people as points of contact to assist them with kind of carrying out some of the things. I know I'm still in touch with a young lady at East Union Middle School to carry on the I'm a Girl Club that is there, to make sure that that continues. So it varies, because in some cases I've been like the only person in the building running that initiative. And it's difficult because, my first 4 years, every year my girls was like, and at the time I was Miss Green, it was like, Miss Green, please don't leave until I graduate. And then next year, please don't leave until I graduate. And I'm like, if I'm waiting for everybody to graduate, I'm gonna be here till I'm about 80 years old. I can't wait for everybody to graduate. So it was difficult, but I always tell my girls that I work with to pay it forward. So even if you leave this building, you take the things you've learned here and you share them with someone else, whether it's a younger family member, some peers. When you come back and show them what you were able to accomplish, just always pay it forward. And if you look at the end of the book, a lot of those young ladies who are now in their 30s paid testament to how these types of enrichments like change their whole outlook on their life and their education, and how much more important it made education and just going further than high school meant to them. And they were not all African American girls. There were several white girls, Hispanic girls, Asian girls. Like, we had everybody involved in the club.
Yeah.
But it was just geared towards African American females.
Yeah,
Dr.
that was
Leake.
good. I'm sorry, Mr. Artis, or Dr. Artis. I was going to just say that I remember her starting her program alongside of Christina Rose at Forest Hills High School too. Kudos, and the girls still talk about that whenever you all were gone. I'm sorry.
No need to apologize. I just wanted Dr. Leake to actually give us an overview of I'm a Girl Club so that everybody who's watching will be able to know about the great work, because I really enjoyed those testimonials that were shared at the back of the book, because it was quite evident that you have made quite a difference in the lives of many girls. So I'd love for you to talk about the club.
Yeah, so first, I was part of a similar club when I was in middle school. We didn't have it when I was in high school, but there were other things, to get involved in high school. So there was someone like me in my middle school that kind of, took all the girls under their wings and kind of got us out of the building to see things outside of our communities so that we would know that there was more than just Albemarle. And if y'all don't know Albemarle, it's very small in Stanley County, rural area. But it takes us getting outside of those small towns and seeing what else the world has to offer. So the I'm a Girl Club, the girl stands for gifted, intelligent, respectful ladies. So we focus on self-esteem, career exploration, college, and health and wellness, beauty. And that was really part of the hook is, everybody wants to, in their own way, feel beautiful. And we were able to accomplish that in a lot of ways. And knowing that beauty is not just what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside and all the gifts that you have to offer. So when you say gifted, you may be able to sing, you can dance, you can, you're a very good artist, because at the end of the day, I had to let the community and the educators in the building know everybody can't be a cheerleader. Everybody's not an athlete. So when you don't have those things, what else is there for you to do? And if you don't provide them another outlet to be creative, then they get into things that are not always positive. So giving them that outlet where they could be themselves and explore and not feel judged and be able to talk and have those conversations and someone to go to that they can confide in, it really unified those girls. Because when I first got to South Stanley High School, the Black girls they had the most suspensions. They were not graduating at a high rate. And throughout my 4 years there, all of that changed. And a lot of those girls were going on to the military. Some of them became police officers. And some of them now, I got one that she just got into Yale and she's getting ready to be going to PA school. So these girls, they just rocked it, but it's because they believed in themselves. So once you can plant that seed, they know that the sky's the limit.
Have you ever thought about, we have had book studies as a staff, and I would think that this book would be a great book for the staff to read and have like just a discussion, because if the teachers are unaware of the problems that we're having and the girls are having with their, not only their hair, but with different things like issues at home or whatever. If they're not aware, a lot of times they can't focus on the issue and help them. So I really just think that, have you thought about trying to get this as a book study for the staff of at any of the schools?
Um, at the time, I didn't want it to be like any kind of conflict of interest. And I had to really think about how I could approach, that with my staff at my school, as well as, within the county where I work. But now that I am no longer underneath a specific school system, that is something that I have considered. And also with trying to get this to new teachers. So when you come into the building, you're already equipped with these thoughts in mind, to combine it with the equity and inclusion and all those different things to give you that aspect to understand your Black female students before you even enter the building. So I have been sending the book to universities, and I am going to start sending it to school systems as well, but I have to make sure that I approach that in the correct way so that it is received.
And I certainly hope that superintendents and educators and principals and other central office administrators who are watching this program Well, reach out to Dr. Leake. This is a great text to be able to share with your staff members, talk about some really great things. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Tempest Leake, author of What Is Not Understood Needs to Be Said, exploring the complexities of Black girls. We'll be right back. Back on Tar Heel Teachers Present, so we're continuing our conversation with Dr. Tempest Leake, author of What Is Not Understood Needs to Be Said, exploring the complexities of Black girls. And Ms. Smith, you have the next question.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask, do you all think, or Dr. Leake, do you think that the church of today have dropped the ball with building our children? And the reason why I'm asking, or as maybe educating them, because I find now that there's so many people, and I'm not being judgmental or anything like that, but they're on the woke spectrum. So a lot of people don't go to church anymore. A lot of people have pulled back from that safe haven that we once all kind of ran to as a community and as a people. So do you think that the church is able to do their part in building our children and our Black girls, especially in the self-esteem and things that they need? Because you mentioned the church as being one of the resources.
Most definitely. I know in my experience, the church was one of my safe places, like where I could go and be involved. But just like with schools, when people leave, when people pass, and you get a new pastor that has a new vision, sometimes things change, and we have to change with the times in order to get the people in place where they need to be. So you have to kind of think outside of the box and find ways to attract your youth. And it can be something that's not as traditional. Like when I went to church, Wednesday night was Bible study night. Thursday we had choir rehearsal. Well, you can find another way or another day where you just have like a youth talk, and you talk about subjects that attract youth that they have concerns about, and you have to give them that space where they feel safe to not be judged, but understand that they're coming to a place where once they feel comfortable and they know that they can come and talk and not be judged by what they wear, how their hair looks, how they sound, if they don't sound, so articulate when they speak, just letting them be themselves. Once they know that they can come here and be them, then you can start to grow that youth population at that church, so that you can be able to reach those kids, and then they can reach others and bring them with them. So we have to adjust with the children.
Yeah, I agree. What I found is it's hard to get the parents, because the parents and the youth are so close in age now, some of them in that millennial state, I guess you can say. And it's hard to even draw them to the church to get the kids there. But we have to do something, I agree, that is more appeasing. Sometimes it just might have to be a movie night just to get them into the place and then build from there. But I just wanted to see if any, if the church at large, if you felt like that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, get that church van, that church bus, and go pick them kids up.
Right.
Because the parents are not going to bring them. And I know Dr. Snuggs and I both know we'll go pick them up. So sometimes you have to go that extra mile, especially for those that want to come, but they don't have the access.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, they're given a lot of options too now. Parents give the kids an option, and when we were growing up, we didn't have an option. We were expected, you get up on Sunday, you're going to church. And now the kids seem to have a choice, and so that's another thing. So yeah, we got to find some kind of way to get them there, because as Vadia mentioned, that some of the parents are about the same age as the kids, and they're close. The mentality is kind of the same, so that needs to be changed as well, as far as the motivation, getting them there. Now I do have a question about the like middle school the girls as they mature, because of the dress code and as with the new style. And as a matter of fact, I just recently started wearing leggings because I had said I never would, but I actually recently started wearing them. But what I see is that a lot of African American females, they develop a lot earlier. And so they can wear clothing that other people may wear, and it looks to appear on them as this being too tight, or it looks like it's not, appropriate, but it's the same clothing, it's the right size, but they just develop quicker. And so that's another issue that we have with our young girls, is that they think they want to wear what's out, what's hip right now. They want to wear that, but at the same time they're told that it doesn't look right, and that shouldn't be happening because that's going to kind of lower their self-esteem as well.
Yeah, and you have to take into account, you don't know how that young lady feels wearing those leggings. She may feel very insecure. And then at the end of the day, an elementary or a middle school student, 9 times out of 10, they're not the ones purchasing their clothing.
Right.
So it's difficult to dictate to a child that young and tell them what they can and can't wear when they're not the ones that have gone to the store and purchased those clothes. And I know we've had a lot of issues, with holes in jeans, but if you go into stores now, it's hard to find holes
Can't
without
find
jeans.
Well, most of my jeans have holes.
And it does make it difficult. And we just have to show them that there is a way that you can wear all of these things and still look tasteful.
Right.
And they also have to understand that in middle school, you are growing at such a rapid rate. It is uncomfortable to be in certain clothing for 7 to 8 hours a day. If you're on a bus and on this and sitting in a desk all day, you have to make sure that those students are comfortable, because if they're uncomfortable, that's going to affect their learning. So you have
Absolutely.
to make sure that you are thinking about all those things. And I talk about body image in the book. And a lot of these girls, whether they're the skinniest or they're the biggest, they have different insecurities with the way that their body looks in certain clothing.
That's
So
right.
we have to make sure that you think full circle when you're taking dress codes into account, and to what girls can afford. Think about, your district and what the socioeconomics look like in your building. Some girls don't have any more than what they have. And if you don't have something in place to support them, then don't bring them down.
That's right. I agree. And it brings me to the dress coding about a young lady that we had at Forest Hills High School. As she came into school all the time, most times she's going to come with something that's inappropriate. Well, based on the rules and the dress code violations of the school. And this been some years ago. And every time she would come to school with leggings on, she was getting dress coded, getting sent to ISS. And so there was one particular day that, she had to come, and she was just really frustrated. She had just got to school. She was walking down the hall. Someone seen her with these leggings. She's out of dress code. So now she's got to come to ISS. At the time, I was the ISS coordinator. And so she came in there, and I was like, why are you back in here again? And she was like, because they sent me in here about these leggings I have on. And so then she just broke down. She said, I'm just so tired of this. Can you imagine being in a house, a 2-bedroom apartment with 13 people, my aunt, her kids, my mom, my other siblings, brothers, my mama's boyfriend, no dressers, we sleeping wherever, and all the clothes is in a pile. And I just get what I can get put on. I put it on and come to school. And like, she was in tears, and I was about in tears, and I just had to tell her, I'm so sorry. I called somebody, can y'all come out here and sit for a little minute? And they did. And I walked up to the office, and I told Dr. Plu, who was the administrator there, listen, we got to do something about that, because she don't have anything else. This is what she got. So she's coming to school. And I find that, even now, hoodies is a big deal. Hats are a big deal. There's so many pieces that we make a big deal that doesn't stop the student from learning. So my whole thing is, I know it could be a distraction. I'm not saying that, but it doesn't stop the learning process. You know, some of the things that we make big are really not that big. I'm just like in a high poverty school, glad that the student got to school whenever they normally miss 8 days because they know on the 10th day they're going to be dropped. So let me run on in there and show up, you know. So, and a lot of times they be like, I don't want to hear that, Miss Smith. You know, they always own me about this. They own me about that. And these are some kids that they're trying to break through other little small things because they got so much other stuff going on at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, dress code, you know, I think at large probably need to go back and be revamped based on where we are now, because you about can't find clothing, you know, that is up to par for certain households. You know, I mean, there are things that kids can wear, but will their parents buy them that? Do they have the resources, like you said, Dr. Leake? And I like the fact that you bring that out in the book. And I also like the point that you just made, that if we don't have resources to accommodate these students, we got to stop making certain things be so big.
Yeah, you have to pick your battles and what you're going to police. And at the end of the day, what someone wears to school should be far from, you know, the top of the list, because you have some teachers in buildings that are waiting for you to walk through that door with the wrong thing on.
Absolutely.
But really, that's not how you need to be greeting your students. And like you said, Vadia, if you had never asked that question, who knows how many more times she would have been in there with you, because she was unable. She didn't have the resources to do any better than what she had on that day. And like you said, at the end of the day, be blessed that she's in the school building, that she has the desire after being in a 2-bedroom apartment with 13 people to even come to school.
Right. Absolutely.
I think sometimes
it was to share that.
Yeah. I think sometimes it is, for those of us who are just thankful they're there, it's hard for me to accept educators when over and over again they are like that. They're just looking for something. And you just want to say to them, don't you understand this is a refuge? This is their safe place. And, you know, you have to stop making any child feel like it's not their safe place, you know, and it is heartbreaking. I have a question, Dr. Leake. How as educators, what can we do when there's such an influence from social media on our girls, you know, on all our girls, all our boys, every child that walks through our buildings? I don't see, you know, I hear them talking, even at the elementary level, about what they've seen on social media. And I know we can't stop them from what they see at home. And again, but I struggle with how we can deal with it and what can we do for them.
I think I mentioned a little bit about this, like in some strategies of ways to allow the social media to be like a positive outlet. Letting them explore ways as far as like entrepreneurship or starting something positive where they're creating a group on YouTube or Facebook or TikTok and they're displaying positive things. So if we give them the opportunity to use the social media, but to use it in a positive way, and then continue to praise them for what they are doing, then they will see that I don't have to be half naked to get the attention. I don't have to be using profanity to get the attention. I don't have to be fighting on social media to get attention. And also make the point that, you know, you're fighting today, someone else is going to be fighting tomorrow. No one's going to watch what you just did, because that stuff is always on there. It's insignificant. If you want to really leave a print, place something into someone's heart, into their soul, into their mind that they can take with them. because you're not going to be the first or the last to get into an altercation or to, display yourself in that way. And then also model it. Like, I try my best to make sure that when I go into schools that I'm display myself in a positive way, and that you can be nice and confident and be clothed and covered and still look nice and still look good and still be attractive. You don't have to display all of your goodies to feel like you're important. So, in the way that you display yourself, praise them when they do things that are right. Also, I know some schools have started doing, like, dress for success days, and when those kids come in and they're dressed up, make sure that every teacher that encounters those students give them some sort of praise or compliment about how they dress, so that they can know that I can be fully dressed professional, and get that type of attention that if that some display on that social media. But you have to flip the social media for them and make it an outlet where it's positive, and try to create a positive environment versus one that is detrimental and that can follow them. And that's what I try to tell you, like, once you put that stuff out there, it follows you. So make a positive footprint versus a negative one.
And we do talk about that with digital citizenship, and it goes back to, if you don't put anything out there that you wouldn't want your grandma to see, and they laugh about it, and I'm like, well, think about it, think about what you're doing, what you're saying.
So, on the high school level, when I interact with the girls, because my role kind of forces me to, it doesn't force me, I actually like it. My whole thing is now that the crop tops. So I'm saying to the young ladies, I see belly buttons, right? I see stomachs or whatever, I'll say that to them. But I also, during jacket time, most of the time, they'll always come and talk to me. And I tell the young ladies, I say, leave something to the imagination. If you put it all out there now, what are you going to show them later, right? And I tell them also, on the high school level, from here, you're deciding by the time you graduate that you're going to either go into a career or go to college or go to technical community college, or go to university is what I meant to say first, or go to technical community college, or you're going to do something. But if you decide, and now most times I'll ask them, like, what do you want to do? And some of the young ladies, oh, I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be a doctor, and they'll spill it out. And I'm like, good, girl, you're going to make all that money, come back, give Miss Smith some of that money. We're laughing and cackle about it. But I also make sure that my what I consider my high flyers, and those are the ones that have a lot of discipline issues, to let them know. And most of those girls are like really smart, but they just make really bad choices. And I say to them, you do understand that when you apply for colleges, they can pull up all this old crap that you think is deleted, right? I said, the cloud is the cloud, and I don't know for real if they can go back all them years, but we've been seeing over time where things come back to haunt football players or other people based on just the post when you're immature and you're not really paying attention. So you have to be wise. And I like the points that you point out, Dr. Lisa, in the book, giving them positive alternatives to still utilize social media, TikTok, but use it in a positive manner instead of the negativity. So I really enjoyed all of those points. And those are some of the ones that I want to hit on whenever my girls get these books.
That's great.
So I remember when I was growing up, and my first like kind of electronic device was a VTech, but it was educational, But now you have 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds with cell phones. And so it's now like kids are definitely, they have these access to electronics and these devices so early that it's really hard to break that pattern, because it's really all they had all their life. They've on YouTube. Even some babies can't even talk, but they can get on YouTube. They can find this stuff.
Yeah.
So, that's something, again, a hard cycle to break. But one of the things that I do try with one of my classes at my school is that it's one of the longest classes of the day, and they're also encouraging, social emotional learning and incorporating all that into activities. So what I try to do, since it's the longest block and we have extra time, I give them at least that 10 minutes a day where it's their time. Now, does it work for everybody? No. Do I still have to tell someone to put up their phone? Of course. But it's still a little outlet for them so that they're not like on it 24/7. I don't have to keep saying it as much as I would when they're just trying to sneak and do it. But I do love when they have their head down on the desk and they think like you can't tell they're on their cell phone and you really can. That that tricks me up every time. But if we can also kind of find a way, like Dr. Leake said, to incorporate it with them so they don't they're not told to no, you can't have it, but it's still, you have your phone but you're still learning at the same time.
What
Dr.
happened to independence? Like girls now, I could say kids in general, but our girls being more like dependent, whether it is social media or whatever, it's like almost as if they're trying to live a life of other people. Like if you're looking on, they're watching other people and trying to live their life instead of having independence for themselves. And I think that goes a long way because even with the one of the things that I wrote down that I wanted to talk about um, is like, for example, for our the girls that are in the neighborhood, or I don't know, they could be anywhere. I heard some of my students saying that they couldn't wait until they got to college or something, that they were going to collect food stamps. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get to. I'm like, there's a cycle of young Black girls, they're thinking that that's going to be their life. I mean, that they're going to one day be on food stamps. And I'm just wondering, how can we break that cycle? They're I think I saw it in the book as well about the income tax thing, about them waiting for the taxes to come back. But a lot of that is just being dependent. What are we gonna do to make them become independent? I don't, I see them being dependent upon. I'm waiting on this. But why can't you do something for yourself? So how can we teach our girls to be independent?
And this is not just for our Black girls, but for all. We have to start teaching them financial literacy. Like they have to understand how credit works. They have to understand how a bank account works and how to use a debit card and how to make sure that you have a savings and how to create a budget. Because these are things that I was not taught as a child. I know the life of living paycheck to paycheck and thinking of whether you're gonna, rob Peter to pay Paul and all this good stuff. But we have to start teaching them stuff like that at an early age, teaching them how to invest, talk to them about how to start their own business, entrepreneurship, owning property. All of this stuff needs to be taught starting in middle school. And this is something, like I said, it has to be at the school level, the community level, and at home.
Yeah,
And it really should be incorporated into the curriculum because our kids need to know more about how to handle their money so that they don't become dependent. They have to know that there's another way. Because if you don't know there's another way, then of course you're going to follow what you see.
yeah, that's right.
And that's what I was getting at. I see that a lot of them are they're actually getting to me, it's the wrong role models, and they're thinking that that is good. And I'm like, how do we change their opinions about that? So
Yeah, so
that
much
was
to
just
talk
one thing
about.
that's,
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Miss Anthony. So much to talk about, and role models are so important. And as I was reading through the book and getting those testimonials, Dr. Lee, you have been such a role model in
Yes.
every facet of your career for Black girls and Black women. And I'm so happy that you wrote this book. And you told your
Yeah.
story and lifted up these experiences. And it's really a great text for educators to really unpack, and non-educators as well, but certainly educators. I hope that you'll consider picking up this book. What is not understood needs to be said, exploring the complexities of Black girls. Dr. Leake, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. To learn more about Dr. Leake's work and to purchase her book, please visit her website, with drleake.com. We also would like to thank our wonderful group of guest co-hosts for joining us. You all did a fantastic job. I am Anthony, Vadia Smith, Dr. Chaundra Snuggs, and Robyn Stone. And once again, we'd like to thank our special guest, Dr. Tempest Leake, author of What Is Not Understood Needs to Be Said, Exploring the Complexities of Black Girls. Pick it up. We look forward to seeing you next time on Tar Heel Teachers.